disaster funding denied by the federal government.
FEMA has announced it is rejecting Gila and Mojave County's request for $30 million in federal help after damaging flooding in September. Our Ashley Rodriguez has more now from Globe.
Governor Hobbs is condemning FEMA's decision, saying the homes, roads, businesses, and infrastructure are left devastated by the historic monsoon flooding this fall. And on Christmas Eve, the timing of FEMA's denial is all the more disappointing.
So here's a story that really captures what's happening with federal disaster policy right now. The Trump administration just turned down Arizona's plea for help after devastating September floods. Floods that claimed lives and wiped out entire communities. The official reasoning? Arizona should be able to handle this on their own. Back in September, historic monsoon flooding tore through parts of the state. We're talking homes completely destroyed, critical roadways obliterated, and families who lost everything. Yet somehow, federal officials looked at that destruction and decided it didn't warrant emergency assistance. If you're finding this coverage valuable, I'd really appreciate it if you'd subscribe to the Mac Media and help us reach 50,000 subscribers. It makes a real difference in keeping this work going.
Trump toured hurricane damage and met with victims in North Carolina 4 months after Helene battered the state.
And he's also been critical of FEMA, saying that the recovery is taking far too long. Our Mark Martinez is here now with more. Mark.
John and Ellen, during his tour, Mr. Trump strongly criticized the Federal Emergency Management Agency for their response to Hurricane Helene. In fact, he said he's considering eliminating the agency altogether.
I think we're going to recommend that FEMA go away. And we pay directly, we pay a percentage to the state.
Let's get into what actually happened here. Gila and Mojave counties experienced catastrophic flooding that resulted in 3 deaths. These aren't wealthy urban centers. These are rural communities with limited resources. State officials conducted damage assessments and came back with a figure exceeding $30 million in losses. Under normal circumstances, that level of destruction would automatically qualify for federal disaster assistance. Governor Katie Hobbs followed protocol and submitted a formal request for what's called a major disaster declaration. This isn't just bureaucratic paperwork. It's the legal mechanism that opens the door to federal reconstruction funds for essential infrastructure like roads, bridges, and utility systems. FEMA's response came back with a rejection. Their explanation stated that the flood impacts, quote, did not exceed state and local capacity. Governor Hobbs immediately condemned the decision and announced plans to appeal. She pointed out that Arizona is now expected to manage a historic natural disaster entirely on its own, with zero federal partnership. Local officials in the affected counties backed her up, explaining that the flooding didn't just damage infrastructure, it devastated local economies. They're warning that without federal support, recovery won't just be slow. It could take years, all while draining local budgets that were never designed to absorb costs like this.
More than $30 million in estimated damage. But the federal government has rejected Arizona's request for disaster aid, writing in a letter to Governor Katie Hobbs that, quote, supplemental federal assistance is not necessary. The agency said the flood damage is within the capabilities of the state and local governments, something the mayor of Globe disputes.
We don't have $30 million lying around in our pockets to be able to do these projects.
This means Gila and Mojave counties won't get federal disaster money and resources to help rebuild crucial infrastructure.
We're still dealing with broken sewer lines that we're repairing.
This year, the Trump administration has withheld disaster aid from other states with Democratic governors, including Maryland, Illinois, and even Colorado, which had devastating wildfires in August and major flooding in October. FEMA also told Colorado federal aid wasn't necessary there. Both Arizona and Colorado have sued the Trump administration, challenging everything from cuts to FEMA grant funding to President Donald Trump's tariffs, with Arizona filing 30 35 lawsuits so far. Attorney General Chris Mays telling me in a statement, quote, "It is outrageous and cruel that the Trump administration is abandoning Arizona's and Mojave and Gila counties, particularly right before Christmas." In recent days, President Trump has approved disaster declarations in 2 other states, Montana and Kansas. FEMA has said the agency's decisions are not political. Meanwhile, Governor Hobbs vowing to appeal the denial, and Arizona's 2 senators, both Democrats, promising to help.
We're going to continue to fight and make sure that we can appeal.
Here's the broader context that makes this decision particularly troubling. FEMA rejections do happen occasionally. That part isn't new. What's different is the pattern we're seeing. Federal disaster assistance has always functioned as the emergency safety net for communities facing overwhelming natural disasters. It's designed to step in when local and state resources simply can't handle the scale of destruction. But under the current administration, there's been a deliberate effort to scale back federal disaster support. Colorado faced similar rejections this year after experiencing both major wildfires in August and serious flooding in October. Governor Jared Polis strongly objected to those denials. The Stafford Act gives the president authority to unlock this kind of federal assistance by issuing a major disaster declaration. Arizona officials have been clear about their need for this support as recovery efforts continue. The problem is when federal aid gets restricted without transparent criteria explaining why certain disasters qualify and others don't. You create a situation where affected families and local governments have no idea if help will be there the next time catastrophe strikes.
Reason that they gave us a no on it, knowing the devastation that took place here, a river that flowed through our city that actually killed 3 people in the process.
Governor Hobbs announced the state will appeal the decision, but while they wait, a number of families remain homeless, their homes condemned, and businesses struggle to replace windows and refill shelves.
I know what it's like when your cash register goes out and your credit card machine goes out, your computers go out. Those are expensive items. People need that money now.
The mayor says even with the state covering the cost, that only goes to cover the infrastructure costs. It's the federal dollars from FEMA that would help residents and businesses get back on their feet.
From a political standpoint, this is creating serious problems for the administration. Disaster relief has traditionally been one of the few truly bipartisan issues in American politics. Whether you're in Texas, Florida, California, or Arizona, voters across the political spectrum have always expected federal support when natural disasters overwhelm their communities. The issue isn't inherently political, but what we're seeing is a president who consistently injects partisan considerations into disaster response.
So we are in the communities across Western North Carolina. I have been with Governor Cooper for the last week and understanding and talking to the local officials about where their needs are, which is why we've surged in more resources. And they are going from the pods to people's doorsteps to make sure that they have the food and supplies. We are going to continue, Jake, to have that level of presence and sustain that operation, because we also know that there's going to be a long time before the water and the power is restored. We're going to have to continue bringing these resources in to everybody that's been impacted, especially in these more remote areas that have limited access.
But have all of the remote areas been reached?
At this point, we have teams that are in every county that has been impacted. We've been working with the state to make sure we have not missed anybody. As I was with Governor Cooper this morning, we're getting positive news about progress being made. But we don't want to stop. We do want to make sure we have reached everybody. And so we're tracking that, and we're going to make sure that we continue to support the governor as long as he's needed.
They will make an heroic effort to try and do so. I actually don't think that's going to significantly impact the election, but the amount of disinformation is really extraordinary, although it's not just being put out by the Russians and the Chinese. I mean, former President Trump told us that the people in Springfield are eating dogs and cats, all right? I mean, you know, he likewise said that FEMA money, our emergency money, instead of helping the people that have been hit by the hurricane, is being used to help illegals. I mean, he just makes it up. And so he is able to spew enough disinformation that
Think back to January when the Los Angeles wildfires were devastating communities. Trump's immediate reaction wasn't to focus on relief efforts or coordinate federal support. Instead, he posted lengthy attacks on California's Democratic governor, blaming him for policies Trump claimed caused the fires. It's become a reliable pattern. When disaster strikes, his first instinct is to figure out how it affects him politically and who he can blame.
Now weighing in on the horrific fires in Los Angeles County, and he's laying the blame on California's Democratic governor. He said on Truth Social, quote, Governor Gavin Newsom refused to sign the water restoration declaration put before him that would have allowed millions of gallons of water from excess rain and snow melt from the north to flow daily into many parts of California, including the areas that are currently burning in virtually apocalyptic way, and saying, quote, he is the blame for this.
Arizona isn't an isolated case in this trend. Governors nationwide have started raising concerns that FEMA denials, which used to be rare exceptions reserved for situations where damage truly was minimal, are becoming routine under this administration. We're seeing rejections even after severe tornado damage, major flooding events, and destructive storms. This shift is generating criticism from both Republican and Democratic state leaders, as well as local officials who are dealing with the practical consequences. And when these situations develop, where's the president? Often posting inflammatory content on social media late at night instead of managing federal disaster response. If you made it this far, drop a heart emoji in the comments. It genuinely helps the algorithm show this content to more people. And please subscribe to the Mac Media if you haven't already. We're working toward 50,000 subscribers, and your support directly enables us to keep producing this kind of in-depth political analysis. Thanks for watching.